लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वनिवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितन्यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Let's chant verses number 5 and 6. विविक्तदेशे च सुखासनस्थः विविक्तदेशे च सुखासनस्थः शुचिः समग्रीव शिरः शरीरः शुचिः समग्रीव शिरः शरीरः अत्याश्रमस्थ सकलेन्द्रियाणि अत्याश्रमस्थ सकलेन्द्रियाणि निरुद्ध भक्त्या स्वगुरुं प्रणम्य निरुद्ध भक्त्या स्वगुरुं प्रणम्य। Then number 6. हृत्पुण्डरीकं विरजं विशुद्धं हृत्पुण्डरीकं विरजं विशुद्धं विचिन्त्य मध्ये विशदं विशोकं विचिन्त्य मध्ये विशदं विशोकम् अचिन्त्यमव्यक्तमनन्तरूपम् अचिन्त्यमव्ययमनन्तरूपं शिवं प्रशान्तममृतं ब्रह्मयोनिं शिवं प्रशान्तममृतं ब्रह्मयोनिम्. Okay, so we had gone over the verses 5 quite a bit last time, and so what we will do today is that we will do some additional points to verse number 5 and hopefully get into the verse number 6 today. The 5 and 6 is to be seen as follows. 5 is the preparation for nididhyasanam, and 6 is the actual nididhyasanam. Okay, so 5 is the foundation and 6 is the structure on top of the foundation. Foundation is just to make sure that the structure is solid. That's all. It doesn't really reveal any knowledge. Number 5, the foundation, that is, does not reveal any knowledge per se, but it prepares you for knowledge. Number 6 is the one that 6 and 7, and of course all the subsequent ones, are the ones that are going to give you the new knowledge that we have not had a chance to think about until now. So that is what is called the insight, the revelation, whatever you may want to call it. And so that will be in verse number 6 and 7 and later on. So I think it'll be very interesting to talk about it and to meditate on it as we go along. But number 5 is just a brief introduction to the preparation for Nididhyasana. So we did that last week. I thought what we would do today is to elaborate a little bit more on the verse number 5 and add some more elements to it, particularly from the standpoint of what has worked for me personally. So I think that the teaching of Vedanta can only work to the extent that I am talking with some personal experience. And it's very possible that in some cases I am still talking about things that I am not as clear as I should be, but in the overall clarity, I have to complete the thought. You see what I'm saying? In fact, this is an important thing for us to think about. You know, this is where the traditional view of learning Vedanta is that you kindly find a live person to learn from. It has to be done from a guru. And a guru is a kind of a live person. Why is that? Well, this should be thought about a little bit. Because, we have a tendency we can even read just books and so on. Why can't we just learn it from the books? Why do we have to find a real guru? And what the acharyas, what the tradition, what the literature, what the history of spiritual thought is, two things. One is that we have not seen this vidya to be acquired without a guru. We have not seen it. Only possibility is that you may be so prepared that it's very possible that just some thoughts can trigger some words can trigger your thoughts. And there also you need to reconfirm it. The very famous example of that, and this happens very rarely, so it doesn't really apply to most of us. But it's possible that someone like Sir Ramana Maharshi, who was, I believe, very young, like 9 or 8 or 9 or something like this, suddenly had a thought that I am just a conscious being. I am nothing to do with this body. And the question is, how could he have that? It is from the previous lives. So there also it cannot happen there's no exception to this rule. So this has to be communicated through a live person, number one. The second reason is, so the first reason is that from all of the history, you cannot do this without a guru, number one. Number two is that the force of this is not possible without a living person. The very power to convince someone, because you will always have some doubts whether the person knows it or not, and so on and so forth. But if a person is authentic and says, "This is what I see," then that becomes a powerful argument. So what I'm saying is that with respect to, I'm building all this up because in my own life, in meditating and understanding, some things have worked for me. I can tell you that. I wouldn't be saying it. There is no reason for me to say it. I'm actually, the more and more I'm looking at it, is that I really don't need to teach. I'm content with what I'm doing in my life, more or less. I'm still not completely done. I'm working through it. And I'm just happy having learned what I do. But it'd be nice to share it with some people, and I'm willing to do that to a certain extent. And so all I'm saying is that some things have worked for me. Some things are very clear to me. And that is what I am basically focused on in my teaching. So you look at this preparation for meditation. From the very beginning, there are certain things that were done for me by Swami Dayanandji, because I consider him to be my main guru. That really worked for me. So, having said all that, what I will do is to give you a fuller explanation. I think most of you have already heard me on doing that. It's nothing new, but I just want to summarize it to say what preparation of the meditation has worked for me. And this is, of course, an example, a sample. Number 5 is a sample. Doesn't mean that, so now it probably tells you that please, the rest of it find out from a real person. You can go through the principles of it, but get it directly from a person, and that's what I intend to do today, is to give you what has worked for me, and I offer that as something that might work for you as well. So just a quick review of the words used in verse number 5, and then we will do the meditation, hopefully not the whole time, but some extended meditation on what has worked for me. Okay. So Vivikta deshe cha sukhasanastha. So again, just a revision. Vivikta deshe means it's something is very, very obvious in these things when you're doing meditation. Initially, later on, when you do meditation, it can. Anyway, I'll talk about that in just a minute. Let me not interrupt my original thought. So, Vivikta Deshe means one which is a quiet place. So, Vivikta means separate. I think that's the best word. Separated from other things. Later on, you can have the ability to even do it when you are in the middle of a crowd. That's a more advanced form. But initially, it is better to be alone and also to be comfortable. Sukhasthanastha. Asana. So asana means a sitting posture. Excuse me. So it should be a sitting posture. It could be on the ground with folded legs, or on the chair. Doesn't matter. Either one of them is fine. Comfortable. So this is what that is. Shuchi. So Suchi means a clean place. Clean place where and both outside and inside should be clean. So preferably you should sit with having taken a shower, not necessary but recommended. Having cleaned your body with wearing clean clothes, having brushed your teeth, and so cleanliness. And also then the internal cleanliness. The internal cleanliness has to do with having a mind which is free of raga dvesha, with its likes and dislikes. Should not be hung up on following a train of thought which you don't like, or one which is pulling you into some kind of a like. No, just be independent. Then just the samagriva shirashariraha, and means that it should be all in alignment, your body, your neck, and so on and so forth. Then atyashramastha. This is an important one, and we will go into this in our meditation, preparation for the meditation. Ashramastha. We went over this last week, I'm just revising it. So why don't I explain this when we are actually doing the meditation? So atyashramastha, and then sakala indriyani nirudhya, bhaktya swagurum pranamya, means that having doing namaskara to the teaching, to the teacher and the teaching. And sakala indriyani nirudhya means withdrawing all of the sense objects and sense organs into yourself, and withdrawing that. Then may you do the meditation. So this is what is suggested, and now let us personalize it for what has worked for many of our situations in life. So with that, let us do an actual preparation, not the meditation itself, but a preparation for the meditation. I'm going to shut off these side lights that are shining in my face. So a small prayer to Ishvara would be a good start to the meditation. If you don't know any mantras, then simply saying Om Namah Shivaya. So my namaskara to Shiva, the Parameshwara, Ishvara. Namah Shivaya would be enough. Om Namah Shivaya. Or if you wanted to do a mantra, then one from the Taittiriya Upanishad or from many other Upanishads. You can just follow this. Om Namaste Astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya Mahadevaya Triambakaya Tripurantikaya Trikalagni Kalaya Kalagni Rudraya Neelakanthaya Mrityunjayaya Sarveshwaraya Sadashivaya Shriman Mahadevaya Namaha. I can say this doing Nididhyasanam, doing the meditation, is the most important thing for me every day. Even if you are not well, it is important to at least attempt to do meditation, even for a short time. I find that if I don't do my normal meditation, the thinking about this the rest of the day is different. I find a daily meditation in the amount of time that you can afford. For me, generally speaking, between half hour to an hour, or if I am pressed for time, a minimum of a few minutes, 5 minutes, is a must. I try to do it at the same time every day. I find a place which is quiet, and I start with a prayer. Then a brief sankalpa. And over time, all these formal steps that we are going through, which we will go through today, don't need to be exactly repeated the same way. Like in the beginning, as an example, I would do a sankalpa. Sankalpa means a resolution, a promise to myself, and a framing of the meditative experience. And by framing, I mean the following. I would start with a mental note to myself that during this meditation, I want to meditate on myself, the person. You can see in the book, Swami Viditatmananda very correctly points out as meditation on the meditator. So what that means is what is pointed out in verse number 5, Atyashramastha. Atyashramastha means situated beyond ashrama. What is meant by ashrama? It means a situation. It's very easy to see that throughout the day I'm involved in some situation or the other. Either during the waking state, thinking about things, or during the dream state, thinking in a different way. But in all cases, my thoughts are with transactions, relationships, evaluation. I am doing this. This is what I'm thinking. Situational aspects. Here in this meditation, however, we go beyond the situational aspects of life. It is not possible to do that while you are in dream, but in the waking state, you can go beyond these transactions and inquire into who am I that is subject to these transactions is what we mean. In other words, meditating on the person, not the personality. So in the beginning, it is good to frame the meditative event by giving a self-thought to yourself, a direction to your mind, saying, this is what I want to do. So what that means is to tell your mind, please follow these directions. You're less likely to be lost in various relationships and questions if you don't do this sankalpa. Now, after having done that over a period of time, I don't need to do this. But in the beginning, it's a good habit to remind yourself that for the period of this meditation, you tell your mind not to disturb you. Don't bring up anything that has to do with my personality, my reaction, my relationships, my transactions. Let me lead the inquiry about myself, please. Then you prepare yourself by gradually disassociation from both the body and the mind. Yes, it is possible. You first observe take on your role as an observer. We went through this last time rather, where you can simply choose any of the areas. So let's look at the body in two ways and slowly disassociate yourself from the body. So the first one is to observe the one sense organ which is prevalent throughout your body, which is the sense of touch. Be aware of all the points of touch. Your feet touching the ground. Touching your lap. Your fingers touching each other. Your eyelashes touching each other. Amazingly, as you are observing this one sense organ without any pressure, your mind quietens down. The second part of this disassociation with the body is to systematically examine the state of the body. It's like an external examiner, a masseuse, a doctor, a therapist that helps your body to relax systematically. You can do this by observing the parts of the body that unwillingly is harboring tension. In doing so, you can start with one end of the body and gradually work through noting points of stored tension in any parts of the body. And pausing to let that portion relax. Oftentimes, we have some areas of the body that is harboring tension, but like a child that is asking for attention, we ignore it. Here, this process of disengaging yourself from the body means you're patient and observant and helpful in allowing particular parts of the body to relax. You can finish this step by observing the body as a whole. The next step is to admire the beauty of prana, your breathing. This is an opportunity to see Ishvara's work in keeping you alive. This is a direct manifestation of Ishvara. Everything is, of course, but particularly the prana, the life force. Just observe the inhalation and exhalation a gift given to you without asking for your contribution. Without your effort, the bellows of the lungs are working. The oxygen, the life-giving oxygen is coming in through the breath. The distribution of the breath happens throughout the body by the various organs. What a beautiful support of Ishvara. You have the ability to make it smoother. You don't need to, you cannot, in fact, start or stop it, but just by observing see the beauty of prana. Next is your mind, your thoughts. You can see the mind as consisting of 3 windows. A window of the past, the window of the present and a window of the future. As you observe the working of the mind, ask it to quieten down. Initially, out of sheer habits, you may have to help it by identifying which of the three windows it's coming in through. If it has to do with past memories, regrets, that's one thing. If it is current engagements, reactions, that's the second window. If it is hopes, fears, concerns, it is the window of the future. Ask all of them to please not enter from any of the three windows. Close the doors, so to speak. All these steps may need to be formally gone through in the beginning, but you will find that over time, as soon as you sit down for the meditation, if you have done this a few times, it will follow through automatically. You don't have to formally go through all the steps. One aid would be doing a mental japa. You can choose any of a simple mantra like Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya is a very powerful and effective mantra because it helps in making all the steps that we went through more effective. including a prayer to Ishvara. So gently ease into chanting Om Namah Shivaya. You can even do it verbally or mentally. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So with this kind of preparation, the preparation itself might take you some time as we have been practicing, but gradually you will find that the preparation takes less and less time, and in fact you can straight away, as soon as you let me get this light. As soon as you start meditating, as soon as you start sitting down for meditation, you'll find that with your past habits, it comes together very quickly, as I'm sure many of you are already aware of that. But to do meditation as a practice is very important. I find my life has been considerably improved by just making sure this is an important thing in my life. And as we begin to study more about what to meditate on, as we've been discussing it all this time, you'll find that that becomes more and more effective. So your depth of understanding, your rest, the whole life experiences and so on will get more clarity and more depth, which is stemmed from a practice of meditation. So I find that to be very true in my life. So anyway, so that is a kind of an expanded version of verse number 5. And so it just gives you some small hints here and there, but I think you need to personalize it to something which really works for you. And I'm sure that many of you that are experts in meditation from your yoga practices, you have your own methods on that what works. I'm just giving you something which I have adopted in my life, and you can take it or modify it or do different kind of things with it. So that is the contemplation upon the self. So it's interesting, sometimes this word is used contemplation rather than meditation. So the contemplation could be called a kind of like a preparation, if you may. So with that, now let's go to verse number 6 and do the real meditation. This is where the teaching begins, and this is where the real stuff is. The rest of it was just a preparation. So let's look into that. The first thing that we will do is to simply look at the words used and look at the word meaning before elaborating on it, which will take more time and we'll have to do over time. This particular verse, I think, is an important one, and we will spend some more time on it. But let's just look at the Sanskrit words used and the immediate meaning of each of the words. Okay? Hrit pundarikam virajam vishuddham vichintya madhye vishadam vishokam acintyam avyaktam anantarupam shivam prashantam amritam brahmayonim tamadi madhyanta vidihamekam vibhum chidananda rupam adbhutam. A lot of words. Okay. So, it is describing the real you. Yeah, this is what the whole teaching is all about. What it culminates to. That the real you is amazing. Number one. And number two, unknown to yourself. What a wonder. How can I be unknown to myself? That's what it is. And the more you appreciate really the whole teaching, we can really think about using the right words to capture the essence of the teaching. Generally speaking, you will find in the Hindu thing, you'll say realizing, self-realization, realizing. So those are words. And not bad, but they have become hackneyed, as though the self-realization is some kind of a phenomena that either suddenly happens or rarely happens or difficult to do. It has all kinds of things with self-realization. He's a realized person. I think in my view, in our view, our teaching's view, not my view personally, but the teaching's view, the best as I can understand, is to use the word appreciate. you do not appreciate what you are. The amazing person that you are. We just don't appreciate it. Why we don't appreciate it is a different matter. But we don't appreciate it. The amazing nature of each one of us is just incredible when we don't appreciate it. In fact, what our Shastra means the very body of teaching, the very essence of the teaching, the spiritual teaching. That's what Shastra is. Is saying is, what the Shastra is saying is that the amazingness of the person is the same as the amazingness of Ishvara, God. The incredibly powerful, independent, pure, joyful nature that we might ascribe to Ishvara, and we should, because that is the truth. That same thing applies to you. This is what you have to appreciate. And it's the lack of this appreciation for a variety of reasons, because it has never been fully revealed. It's the essence of the teaching. So here are some words that are extremely powerful if we really try to have the ability to understand. We must become an adhikari. Adhikari means the ability to understand the power of the words. You must be capable of understanding. It's all about becoming an adhikari. Because if we are not an adhikari, adhikari means one who is qualified. Yeah, that's the best way to do that. One who is qualified. Then the words have a different meaning. If we are not qualified, then they fall flat. There was a very beautiful example that Swami Maheshananji gave. So let me repeat that. I'll come back to it. What time is it? 11:04. I think we'll have enough time to go into some more aspects of this. But let me look at this example of an adhikari. Why becoming an adhikari is an important thing to do. Because words are words. Like, for example, you use some words to a 2-year-old or toddler, he won't understand it. But if somebody is capable and adult, then they might get a different meaning out of it. Words remain the same. So this thing was illustrated with an example, which is a real life example. Apparently, there was a Englishman um, who, generally speaking, when the English came over to enslave India, um, they were they were of the view that these guys are primitives and they don't know what life is all about. They don't know how to be successful. We can show it to them. So generally they were very critical and so on. But they began to understand that there is something here which is very valuable, which we don't have in England. And so there were certain scholars who became more and more cognizant of the beauty of the spiritual wisdom of India and tried to understand it more and more. And so that involved learning the language, talking to people about a lot of things happened, and so on. So one of these Englishmen um, learned Sanskrit, and he was in Banaras, in Varanasi. So he approached a spiritual leader, a Swami, and said, "Please teach me the Gayatri Mantra." He says, "I know the Gayatri Mantra I have learnt it from some my Sanskrit teacher, but I don't know the importance of it, and I cannot appreciate it. So can you please do that to me?" So the spiritual, I don't know if it was a Swami or somebody, Pandit, he said, "Sir, may I say something? You are not qualified." Because he could tell what this guy was doing. He was just trying to gather information, academic information, and he was not a real student of spirituality. He could tell that. So he says, "Sir, I'm very sorry to say you are not qualified." So he says, "What do you mean by I'm not qualified? I can learn, I have know the meaning of the words, Gayatri Mantra and so on. I just want you to tell me about what's the importance of it and how he says, "No, I can't, because you're not qualified." So he says, "What do you mean by I'm not qualified?" He says, "Let me give you an example." He said, suppose there was a king. King meaning someone who commands an area, a lot of people, money, etc. And a king is somebody who's very, very powerful. So the king had a friend who came over, and so he invited him to his court. And in the court there were people who were police people, they were military people, they were his courtiers, his ministers. There was a whole thing, and this friend came. He says that suppose this friend were to tell one of the police people guarding the king, "Hey, I want you to arrest the king and take him out of here." He says the friend comes in. Supposing the friend says, "I want you to arrest the king and take him out of here." He says, "You know what will happen? The police people will start giggling. They won't even get angry or anything like this. They'll start giggling. What the heck are you saying? But if the king was to say, arrest this stupid guy and take him out of here, there will be a swarm of policemen who would love to do this as soon as possible. How can you say things like this? He says this is what is meant by adhikari, a qualified person. Why? Because a casual visitor is not qualified to command the police people for the actions of the same words. He will say, arrest this person. So if you want to be a purist, you can say, somebody can point a finger and say, arrest this person. The other one person also says, arrest this person. Same words, different meaning. So, as the story, as Swami Maheshananji pointed out, goes, so after telling him this example, he says, therefore, I cannot tell you the meaning of the Gayatri Mantra because you are not qualified. So then the Englishman scratched his head and says, okay, I understand, but what do I need to do to be qualified? He said, please, he could tell that this is not going to happen in this lifetime. The way the person is, the way he's conducting, the way his conclusions are, that these are strange people, inferior people, and I just want to get some of their wisdom and then go back to the UK and publish a book and write all of this down. These kinds of nonsense that people do all the time. He says this is not going to happen in his lifetime. So this says the real life story. He says, you'll have to die, and before you die, you please pray to Ishvara, to God, would your God, to make you being born in a family where this vidya is available, and then learn then will happen in the next life, not in this life. This is what the story is. So therefore, what it means is that all these words that we are going to be using, Trit Pundarikam Virajam Vishuddham Vichintya Matye Vishadam Vishokam, will seem like powerless words unless we become qualified. This is what we have to do. So be that as it may, let's at least look at the meaning of the words as we at the same time develop our capability of learning those words. So these are words that describe the amazing you. We don't forget that, please. It is describing the amazing you that you are not yet appreciating. And the process of appreciating is that at least we should see what the words are saying. Here I draw your attention to what Swami Viditatmananda, in fact the very first, he says, this is a good point, excellent point. If you look at the bottom of the page 97, which starts to have Swamiji's commentary on it, he says, in this verse, you are, so he says the self, but I'm going to just, since I'm teaching you, I'll say, You are described in so many words. When we use these words, I'm describing you, not some kind of a self and some outside thing or so on. You, the person, not the personality, but the person. In this verse, you are described in so many words. Why so many words? Because, Swamiji says, each word addresses one or the other conclusions or complex that we have about the self. Each word helps dispel a wrong notion about the self. Very good point. Very important point. That the truth is very simple. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Satchidanandaha. This is the truth. And those are also not three things, they are the same thing viewed from three perspectives. But at least three. So why don't we just use three words? Why are we using, you can chant, you can count. Hrit Pundarikam, number 1. Virajam, number 2. Vishuddham, number 3. I don't know how many they are, maybe 18 or 20 or something. Why so many words? It is because I have such a wrong notion about myself that my notions are multifaceted. How? You can see, you can look at that. So I think we won't have time to really get into even the word meanings, so we will do that next time. But you can see how multifaceted it is. You can say, please describe yourself. This is what shows the lack of appreciation. You can say, I was born in India. Wrong. This is one notion. That I was born is number 1. My expected lifespan is wrong. Another notion. I have had a difficult life. Wrong. I am very happy only once in a while. Wrong. So your longevity, your happiness, all those kinds of things are wrong. And we have to look at each one of them and dispel your firm conclusions from each one of them. And this requires multiple words to do so. So this is what the reason for it is. So different Upanishads have different styles, but here immediately the Upanishad gives you a bunch of words to meditate on. So I don't know how much time we will have to do all of this, but we'll do the best we can in terms of giving it proper attention so that the level of appreciation can be enhanced in our study in a reasonable amount of time. Okay? So with that we will end the class and we will begin the next class with the word meanings first of what it is, and then we'll infuse into it the real meaning that I understand from my perspective. So this is how the teaching will go. Okay. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Very nice to see all of you. It's good. Very wonderful. Happy New Year to all of you. And we will continue this very beautiful text, which is really all about meditation. It's an advanced text in that sense, so it would require us to spend quite a bit of time in explaining and then hopefully meditating on it. So it's a nididhyasanam type of a text. But it's good that we have a text to enhance the teaching. So continue to urge you to please read the sections as we cover them in the class, so to strengthen the concepts behind it. Okay. It's good to see you, particularly many of you that attended both the classes. I still don't understand how you were able to do that. So all the best wishes to you. And I will look forward to continuing this for next week, and I'll see you next week. Om.